Hello, welcome to the Homeschool Mommy Mentor. I am your hostess, Donna Goff, and I am here to talk to you today about the power of an hour, a gateway to a classical education. A little background on this. I'd say about 20 years ago, I created this for my family. My husband was out of town for 14 months, and I was dealing with a colicky child, and I had four other children, and that were at home. I had two children that had graduated and were in college, and so I had four more, um, and the baby at home. And we would get up and we'd do homeschool in the afternoon because we were so exhausted. My child would go to sleep at about 4 o'clock in the morning after we took turns singing to her and walking her and trying to get her comfortable. And we'd just be exhausted. And I just made an executive decision that we would do school in the afternoon. And as I found way to bring her out of this colic gently, I realized that I needed to get back on a regular schedule. And I started getting up earlier, and we started doing school in the morning. And I wanted a way to integrate all the different things that I wanted into curriculum. And I was taking a family-centered approach where I would teach general knowledge together, and then I would teach skills individually. And I will teach that rotation in another uh, video. In fact, it will follow this. But this video specifically is talking about how I taught general knowledge. And I called it the power of an hour. What can you teach in an hour day? Well, it would amaze you what you could teach in an hour a day. It's as simple as one, two, three. It will change the way you homeschool forever. And when I say it's as simple as one, two, three, it's three things. And I wanted it to be attention span friendly. And I knew their attention span as a group might be 15, 20 minutes, sometimes less on some days, sometimes a little bit longer on others. And so I broke it up into three segments that could be expanded or contracted. The first one was Bible stories every day. The second one was reading aloud from a classic. And the third one was a gateway to learning. And I'll tell you what that included. But first, I want to talk to you about how the Bible stories can expand or contract. Some days we were going on a field trip and we might have only read one verse and discussed that verse. Other days it may have been a story. Most stories are less than 5 minutes in the Bible. They're very short and you can discuss them. Some of them are a little bit longer. And so when it gets to a classic, you can read a whole chapter, or you can read for check their attention span. You can read 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then just gently pencil in where you are, put a bookmark, and you can go on. Well, if we were taking a field trip, some days we'd only read one page, and that's okay. And then my daughter would say, Mom, can I take it in the car and read out loud? Not a problem. And so we did that. And the third thing is the gateway. This is the gateway. It's very simple. Sunday, we learned about a person from history that was a person of faith, and we focused on a character um, trait like honesty, integrity, kindness. And that would be coupled with a paragraph or a chapter or a poem, a chapter from a classical work, or it could have been a sermon by William Penn. Anyway, we would just take that small segment and we would discuss how that character trait applies to us personally and how we can take that character trait and develop it in our own life. Monday was art and spelling. Tuesday was music and grammar. Wednesday was math or science. Thursday was a world leader, a nation, and language arts. Friday was a poet, poetry, and a state. And how this looks like a little bit close up. On Monday, art history was one artist a month. And before I introduce anybody, I would ask what they knew about that person. That way, if they did know, it wasn't just teaching them and assuming that they don't know anything. It would give them an opportunity to share what they know. And that goes a long way to improving the teaching situation with my children. And so they'd get an artist a month, and then they'd get one artwork a week. And we would study it Charlotte Mason style. I would hold up the picture and ask them to take a look at it. And when they had studied it long enough, usually a couple of minutes, I would turn the picture down or turn it around so I would be looking at it and have them describe it to me. Well, it helped them be able to see and pick up detail. And it also developed their oral composition skills, their ability to express, which is really vital before they start learning to write um, about things that they want to express. And so this oral composition via explaining that art piece is vital to helping them in pre-composition. So Monday was artists a month, an artwork a week, and a spelling rule a week. And then in year 3, I gave them an art term, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. They got an art term a week. It only takes a minute or two to explain an art term. And then they know what that is. You explain what a bas relief is, or an atelier, or a chiaroscuro, and what that would be. And Tuesday, they learned about a musician. And again, I would ask, what do you know about Handel or whoever the musician was that month? And then we'd listen to a music piece by that composer, and they'd get one grammar rule, just one grammar rule. On Monday, they got a spelling rule. On Tuesday, they get a grammar rule. Wednesday, they get a mathematician or a scientist. Every other week, they get a new math concept. So they have 2 weeks to really wrap their mind around and learn what that concept is before we move on to the next one. And there are activities there that really help younger children understand that concept as well. And then on the odd weeks, they get a science concept and they learn about that. On Thursday, they get a world leader. They get one nation every week, and then language arts. Year 1 is Intro to Hebrew. They get a Hebrew letter, the literal and symbolic meaning, and the numeric value of that letter. 3 things. It only takes a couple of minutes to teach it, and then they can review it during the week. Then on the second year, they got Anglo-Saxon roots and affixes. Year 3 is Latin roots and affixes, and year 4 is Greek letters, and then a Greek affix or root every week, one a week. And then Friday they get poetry. They get a poet a month. They get a poem a week or a segment of one, because some of the poems are like 2,000 lines long. Homer is really long. You don't want to give an 8-year-old Homer. You want to give them a taste of Homer. And so I looked through and tried to pick verses by Homer that a child could relate to. And then Friday, they get a state a week. So they're covering this each week, and it's very simple, and it's all laid out. I put this together for my children, and then later I've gone back and I'm putting it in a grab and go format, And so I have year 1, 2, and 3 put into that grab and go format. Year 1 and 2 are available. 3 will be available within the next few weeks. And so this was a very simple system. Before I introduce them to a new concept, I'd ask what they know about it, and then I would teach them what they didn't know about it. And each day when we get started, I would just do a quick review. Who can tell me here who we've been studying this week? Who is the artist this last week? The mathematician, the musician? Can you tell me something about their work or the country that we just recently studied? And so they get this opportunity to share. And so they're constantly having it reinforced, and they're also having the opportunity to share what they already know. So this is the power of an hour. It is very simple, but it does incredible things. I was talking to one mom. She said she couldn't get her kids to do their school work. I asked her if she had tried Power of an Hour. Well, when she got back with me, she said she'd read The Power of an Hour in the morning, and they'd go take a walk, and she would talk to them as they were out on their walk about the lesson for that day. She said they were retaining more, and they were fighting her less. In fact, they weren't fighting her to learn. I had another mom contact me from the East Coast. Her husband was speaking or attending a conference in Myrtle Beach, and they had just gotten a sample of Power of an Hour and had been trying it out. And her boy said, "Mom, can we do Power of an Hour forever?" He just loved it. I had another girl, 9-year-old, decide that she was going to do Power of an Hour on her own, that this was going to be her curriculum, and she did it on her own. I had another girl who also did it on her own. So I know that some children can. But for the most part, it's a great way to do it as a family. I had a friend who had discovered she had brain cancer. She had 10 children, and she didn't want to put her younger ones in school. And so she was talking to me, and I said, try the Power of an Hour. And she waited till her husband got home. He was an officer in the military, and he sat down and did it with them. And he enjoyed it so much, they decided to have it as a family hour in the evening so that he could participate in the scripture story and reading aloud, and then whatever the exciting activity has been. And my husband, as he was going through all the links and everything that are added in for further learning and expanding and customizing the curriculum, he was just blown away by what it covered. And yet the children loved it. I had one person who was a reviewer for me. Her children opened up her email before she got home and already did the lesson and told her the lesson when she came home, before she even got to go through and review it so that she could make suggestions for edits. It's just amazing how it has affected so many children and so many people. And I have here, I just wanted to read one last quote. This was sent to me in September by a woman named Marjorie. She said, "Why do I love Power of an Hour? It is thorough. I am learning things with my children that I've never learned before, from history to geography to grammar. It is affordable. The entire year's programming for all 7 of my children still at home is under 200. With 13 children, no, that's not a typo, and 1 income, I surely appreciate a bargain. It fits our schedule. Through over 25 years of teaching at home, I learned this type of learning is the absolute best fit for our home school. An hour a day learning together, plus 1 or 2 hours of individual work, means that we're done by noon. And then we have plenty of time for children to be children playing outside and creating and socializing, working alongside my husband and myself. It is a very user friendly and it requires almost no prep time. Yes, I could do the research and put this together my own similar program. In fact, I have done exactly that before I discovered this excellent program, but I don't have any spare time to do so anymore. And the power of an hour excels anything that I have ever come up with. Donna, thank you for your service to the homeschool community and to my family specifically. I will put a link with this video to an overview page on my website. And there you can actually get a visual overview of what this covers. And then there is a way for you to be able to get a free sample week. And the sample week is not an excerpt, it's an actual real week. And so you can go through that and see how easy it is and how well your children remember. It's amazing. It all adds up. How many artists and musicians and mathematicians and scientists and everything in a 4-year period. I divided it into 4 years: ancient, medieval, age of discovery, and modern. So ancient to 1 AD, 1 AD to 1500, 1500 to 1800, and 1800 to the present. And so they go through all the countries of the world, or most of them actually. They go through 144 of 198. They go through all the states. They learn the conventions of grammar, uh, how to punctuate properly, and parts of speech, when to capitalize, things like that. And they're learning about art, music, and poetry, and great people from history. And all this is included in the power of an hour in a grab and go format. You don't have prep time unless you want to do something extra. It's not necessary. It's very simple and it works just as it is. I have blog posts on my website that talk about how to use it with young children, older children, in a blended approach for those who have children in public school or private school because their spouse insists on it, but you feel like they're just not getting enough. This is something that can be done as a family hour also in the evening. I've also used it from bed when I've been injured and I've had or been had a bad pregnancy. I would have the kids climb up on the bed next to me, and it was something I could do from bed. So, power of an hour is more powerful than you realize, and as you experiment with it and try out the sample, you'll find out that it can really change your homeschool for the good. Thank you. Please subscribe below, share it with your friends, and check the link and check out the sample and enjoy the journey.